This is 4 years in the making, everyone. 4 years of secrecy, 4 years of a whale who has been unable to discuss its identity publicly is now going to come on this channel and discuss why being a whale in Seattle was so ruffled so many feathers in corporate media that we had to blur this whale's face. Would you call it witness protection? Maybe you would call it that. But before we reveal the identity of the whale, you probably want to know what I'm talking about if you're new to my channel. 4 years ago, I put together a music video about the southern resident killer whales, which are endangered and dwindling in number, and I was covering them regularly. And I thought I would put together a fun music video to Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You, but instead it's All I Want for Christmas Is Whales. And I paraded around in a Santa Claus costume all around Seattle with somebody dressed as a whale. And just before we were going to release the video, this person told me that that his or her face could not be shown. And we're going to talk about why. Like, what was it about this person's face that was going to be so contentious or so dangerous to the establishment, the whale establishment, that we had to blur the face there. And we're finally going to tell you who was the whale. But I think we should probably watch the video. That way you all know what I'm talking about. So here's 4 minutes of the best dancing, singing, lip singing, whale reenactment you've ever seen. Grab your popcorn. Merry Christmas. Here we go.
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true. All I want for Christmas is you. Yeah. I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. Don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I don't need to hang my stocking upon the fireplace. Santa Claus will make me happy with a toy on Christmas Day. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true. All I want for Christmas is you.
All right, everybody. So as you saw, I'll just scroll back here for a second so we can get a very close-up look. And I'd like, oh, here. I'd like to take some guesses in the chat. We have somebody saying that maybe it's Elon Musk because he likes to dress up. I don't know if that's true. Does Elon Musk like to play dress up? Somebody let me know. But it's not Elon Musk. I can assure you it's not him. Any other guesses in the chat before I bring in the whale? Let's just see what else we have going on here. Thank you. It's not Celine Dion, and it's not actually Mariah Carey. Any other guesses? We need some hints. Okay. How about this? So, okay, it's somebody who used to work in Seattle in the media market, in the corporate TV news market. All right, there's a guess. Go Google some names real fast. A paid actor. No. AOC. Not AOC. It's not AOC. It's not my husband. Nope. Not Whoopi Goldberg. Yes, it is a woman. I think she identifies that way. We'll ask her when she comes in. You are right about that. Not Frasier. Keep going. Keep going. All right. Well, while you guys are guessing, that narrows it down. Yeah, we're getting close, everybody. Carrie Lake. It's not Carrie Lake. However, it would be amazing if Carrie Lake would actually come on my channel. I've asked her a couple of times. I would, especially now that she's she wants to lock up some people in Arizona. Your mom? No, not Connie Chung. I don't think she worked in Seattle. Did she? Did Connie Chung? Thankfully, she doesn't identify as a whale. We could ask. I don't know. I mean, we've definitely, obviously, both of us have really, since this video, it's springboarded our careers. Clearly, look at me now. So, okay, I'm going to bring her in 1 second. But first, you know what we got to do? We got to do a little bit of AllisonWinePromo.com because you're running out of time. If you want to get your Christmas wine for gifts that support free speech and companies that support free speech and getting interviews with people who dress up as whales around Seattle, which actually probably is not that hard to do in Seattle. There are a lot of people that dress up at all kinds of things in Seattle. But if you'd like to support my work and you already drink wine, go to AllisonWinePromo.com. Remember, these are extremist. I'm going to call them extremist wines because they're from extreme altitude locations, very remote locations in Argentina, very unique wines because the grapes work very hard under the sun in these conditions, fewer pesticides because they're in the middle of nowhere, small operations, hand-picked grapes, natural fermentation, all that good stuff. They're really, really good wines, named after people really here, honestly. Oh, and this is telling you get a complimentary bottle if you sign up. So you get a free bottle, $25 value, basically. The Rogue Malbec on the left is my favorite. All very good. So go to AllisonWinePromo.com. Don't forget also, if you want to get some coffee, you can do stocking stuffers because they make little travel packs. So you can get light roast, dark roast, whole bean coffees. These are USDA certified organic roast. TwinEngineCoffee.com/Allison. TwinEngineCoffee.com/Allison. If you are interested in tea, you can also do that. I like to show people that the tea here is it's a lot like a black tea. It's very good. Katura tea, it's the fruit that's around the coffee bean. And I like to cold brew mine, but you can hot brew it like a normal tea, normal black tea. It's very good. Anyway, so there's light roast, dark roast, all kinds of stuff. Let's just look at what is coffee wood? They're selling coffee wood here. I don't even know what that is, but it's another great thing that you can buy. Okay, so are we ready for this? Are we ready for this? Let me go back to the comments, okay? It's not Gene Anderson, but that would also be amazing if Gene Anderson was the whale. Not Brandy Cruz, but that's a good guess too. That's a very good. It's not Joe Rogan. Nope. Christina's a good guess too, but I don't think she ever worked in Seattle. Okay. I'm looking. Baba Wawa. No. But you guys these are good guesses. These are pretty good guesses. Okay. This is such a big moment. Can somebody do? Thanks for the tip on ROKFIN, everybody. Thanks for Christy Lee. No, not Christy Lee. I'm looking at ROKFIN right now, and we got 300 on Rumble. Marnie Hughes. I don't think I know who Marnie Hughes is. Dory. No, it's not Dory Monson, but that's another good guess too. Okay, I'm at a loss. Are we ready to do this? This is such a big moment. I'm trying to figure out. Let me put the whale back up. Okay, that way That way we can see if we think this whale matches everything that you envision behind the blurred face. Are we ready? Is somebody doing a drum roll? Okay, good. My producer's coming in right now to interrupt the show, so I better do this. Here we go. 3. Can you come here? Come here and say 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'll get you some juice, but hang on a second. I need you to say 3, 2, 1. Here, can you say 3, 2, 1? Say 3, 2, 1.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, that's good. 1, 2, 3, 4 is good. Okay, here we go. Here we go, Lily. Oh! Who are you?
Hi, I'm Joanna Small, much less famous than any of the people guessed. But I did have 6.5 years in the Seattle television market, and Allison and I became friends right from the start. And there was no one else in your entire life you could have asked to dress up like a whale and parade around Seattle. And I agreed immediately for no compensation. And that was my husband behind the camera, helping create this fantastic production that, as you mentioned, has clearly springboarded our careers.
Here's Jim right here.
Yeah,
that's your husband, Jim.
All Christmased out and everything.
Did you say your name?
I did. I said I'm Joanna Small.
Okay, so everybody can go Google Joanna Small. I was trying to figure out how to make you bigger. I'm trying to make you bigger so you can be next to the whale, but it's not. My setup's not working, so I'll just make you big like this.
A side by side of me and the whale.
Let's see if I can find. I'm going to see if they still have your bio up. So where did you work? Tell us about, and then we're going to go to why we had to blur your face, because we haven't talked about that yet.
We haven't. It was extremely controversial. Well, I used to work at Cairo 7, so I worked there for like 6.5 years. I worked in Seattle.
They still have you up as a reporter there.
Flattered. Well, I've been gone for a while. So I left at the end of 2019, worked there from 2014 to 2019, and I started doing public affairs for a police department that was north of Seattle. And then I relocated to Colorado in May, and I do public affairs for a police department near Denver. But I had about 15 years in news, and like I said, about 6 in Seattle. Allison and I worked at competing stations, actually.
Yes. Okay, let's get to the heart of the matter. You were censored. I'm going to call this straight censorship. It was preliminary premonitions, I guess, of what was to come with my career, because that's what all I do now is censorship. And I have a lot of people on who you would say, why is this person so scary? And why does this person have to be censored? And I wonder this about you as the whale. Like, what was it about the whale costume that was so I don't even know what the right word would do. What was it that we had to blur your face about? Why? What was so dangerous about the whale costume?
So if I remember this correctly, you asked me.
Hang on. Keep talking. My daughter's taking down my camera. Oh God, hang on. Keep talking.
Okay. You asked me to be your whale, and I readily accepted, because who passes up on a tremendous opportunity like that? And it sounded like a lot of fun. So we did the whole video. And if I recall, that was an entire day of going to some of the busiest places in Seattle wearing that whale costume and doing what you guys saw in that video. So, I mean, like, it was a very self-deprecating experience, but one that I will always treasure. And then I made the mistake of telling one of our people in management at the television station at the time that I had done this, because I thought it was so funny and we had such a good time. And I believe I even showed her a brief clip, the one where I pop up from behind the driftwood and reveal myself for the first time. And she took one look at that video and said, "Joanna, you cannot be in this video." She said, "It undermines your credibility as a reporter." And I was devastated. And you were super bad when I told you, because for anyone who's watching this who edits, you know that adding a blur to someone's face like that, especially when there's that much motion, is so time consuming. I think at the time you told me it took you 9 hours of editing. But like, I went back and forth with her for days about, why does this matter? And it's just fun. And, everybody has a personality. It's like the least controversial thing you could possibly participate in. But there was like some concern that it would make me appear, I don't know, like I wasn't a serious journalist. So I guess that was the beginning of the end of my career in journalism, Allison. I left shortly after.
Yeah, I was going to ask people, if you're in the chat, do you think if you had seen her as the whale, would you have been less likely to trust her reporting? Let's see what the people say. Orcas have been marginalized for a long time. That's kind of true.
Fair enough.
Whales can be reporters. Species appropriation. Yeah, I hope you've apologized for that, Joanna.
Well, I was bored.
This is a good one. You could talk about this. My buddy's in a group that cleans up graffiti in Seattle. They need bodyguards to do their job.
I mean, like, we also had bodyguards. Not that day, not when we were shooting the whale
Yeah.
video. That was far less controversial than probably anything we did in reporting. I think that was like the safest I ever felt in Seattle, was walking around in that whale costume.
As if anyone takes any journalist seriously.
Boom.
Okay, do you really think it was the costume? Did you refuse to put a blue streak in your hair?
Well, my hair was covered, but yeah, I think it was the costume. And I don't know, the dancing or something, but honestly, like, it was fun, right? Like, everybody has their persona outside of work, and I think more so now today than ever, we should be comfortable sharing a little bit of that in what we do, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I you know, here, I have an easier time believing a real person than someone who plays a fake stiff on TV. You know, your station had a much harder edge to it, I think, than mine. You guys sort of sold yourselves as the bleeds that leads station. Cairo is a lot more sort of like live on the scene, yelling at you about this scary thing that just happened, you know? And my station did a lot more cooking segments and stuff. And so I think they were, you know, we were the home team. What was your name? Your phrase?
When I start, I mean, it changed over the course of my 6.5 years there, and I don't know what it is currently. But when I started there, like, our tagline was Cairo 7 Eyewitness News, because yeah, you're right. It's a breaking news station. It was first to get it on air at the time. So no, I mean, I think you're right. I think that I hate using the term like fluff, but I think there was probably a little bit more like feature and fluff to King than there was to Cairo. I think that's pretty fair. And so maybe that would have been more acceptable had I been the whale and worked at King, but it definitely wasn't something that flew at what at the time was Cox Media. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Being a journalist on ROKFIN, a cult priestess says, being a journalist doesn't depend on who you work for. People are born a journalist. Well, I do agree that too often we look at brands and not the work that the person's doing. And everyone thinks to be a journalist, you have to have some kind of big brand name behind you. Does she have a SAG card? Did you have a SAG card? You were in SAG.
I mean, we all had to be. I mean, Washington, you know, if there's a union, you don't have the opportunity to opt out. So yeah, I was in SAG.
It wasn't Washington, it was Seattle.
Oh, was it specific to Seattle?
I don't think you have to. Yeah, I don't think in Eastern Washington you have to.
Okay. Yeah, yep. I was unwillingly part of the union. And the only reason why I say that is because, you know, we had agents, and I didn't want to pay a union and an agent to do the same thing for me, but that's what I ended up doing. So yeah.
I'm gonna go grab the associate producer. Also has just woken up, so I'm gonna grab him. Could you answer what you think are the main issues driving crappy journalism and corporate news today? And I'll be right back.
Sure. I mean, so I've been, like I said, I've been out of news, and I can't, if you guys comment, I can't see it, but Allison can address it when she gets back. But I've been out of news for like almost 3 years now, almost exactly 3 years now. And maybe some of my issues with news were a little bit different probably than what Allison's were. I was a multimedia journalist, so I worked alone. I covered the North Sound, so everything north of the Seattle area to the Canadian border, which happens to be a more conservative area. You know, like so much of the country, when you get outside of those major cities, and I live near Denver now, so same thing here. I work for a police department that's just to the west of Denver, and it's you know, in a slightly more conservative area than what I would say the primary Denver area is. But you know, the stories that I pitched and the things that mattered to the people who I was representing when I covered oftentimes got shot down by the main station. And that was because they didn't align with what the company, which was based out of Atlanta, wanted to see on the news. And unfortunately, that just meant I didn't get to cover a lot of the issues that I thought truly mattered to people where I lived, where I was living, you know, like I said, all the way to the Canadian border. In fact, when Trump came and campaigned in Washington, the only place he went was an area where I covered. in Linden, near the Canadian border in what's called Whatcom County, Washington. So my primary issue was that the ideas that I had that I thought were fair and representative of the people who I was supposed to be representing on the news, oftentimes never made it on the air. That, and then the fact that, I think trying to create news where maybe news doesn't necessarily exist is an issue that reporters are always going to face. They're always adding shows and segments, and it's more news, more news, more news. And the more news you add, the less quality you have. Because behind that, if you're watching news on a local level, is a reporter who's trying to come up with 3 to 5 enterprise story ideas, every single day. And sometimes they just aren't there. And after 15 years in news, that just got to me. I'd call every contact that I had every day. And sometimes there just wasn't anything to do, but I still had to have a story by 5. And I think that leads to some of the stuff you see on the news that never should be on there in the first place, is we are struggling trying to fill time. I could talk forever about reasons why I left, but those are some of the primary ones right there. Hi, Jack.
Say hello.
Hi, Jack.
Yeah, never in depth. Well, it's very hard to go in depth when you have to keep your stories to 90 seconds, but also only have like an hour or two to know what you're talking
Right,
about.
and you're doing day turns too, right? We're not talking about investigative reporting. I'm talking about general news, general assignment reporting, where it's you never get caught up. You just turn a story, you go home, you immediately start trying to come up with something for the next day, and the cycle repeats itself. So yeah, you don't get that in-depth stuff you're talking about.
Joanna, are you near Golden, Colorado?
Yeah, I work in Wheat Ridge, so I'm right next door to Golden. Golden's beautiful.
Okay. Corporate news doesn't sound like an avenue to the truth. You can see clips of all the local news stations repeating the same delegated talking points from corporate headquarters. I mean, that is true. One of the problems is that with the downsizing of staff and just increase in live programming, there's a lot of recycling of what the national affiliates are doing, or CNN. And so the producers will just copy and paste and just put it right in and the anchors just read it. So it just gets recycled and repeated. And local news does best to just do what's there locally in their community. But if you have fewer people and they don't have the time to do that, oftentimes they'll want to say, well, let's localize a national story, like everybody hates Trump. Let's go out and find out if people hate Trump here, and then they just go around and stick a microphone in someone's face and, whatever it is, like it could be any topic. But I think that's a downfall for local journalism. It's like, trying to take a national story and just do MOS, as we used to call a man on the street, where you just.
Yeah. And if you have your agenda, right? If your point is to find people who hate Trump, you go around until you find the people that hate Trump. Right? You push aside any of the people who don't hate Trump because you're trying to make the story fit. And I realize that's, what happens so many of the times is we want you to find this specific person. You might talk to 10 people first who don't fall in line with what it is, like the angle that you're trying to take on that story. And so that I wouldn't say that that's very truthful reporting.
Yeah, it's just I guess just to give people kind of an idea, even if there are a lot of people, I think Joanna would probably agree with this, but you could, give me your feedback. There is a lot of echo chamber bias aligning among people in newsrooms, just a lot of people who think and live kind of the same way. They don't necessarily, they're not like always just directly censored. It's in a lot of ways, everybody kind of thinks the same. But even if you're somebody who is trying to break out of the box, like Joanna was talking about, where you're really trying to understand the community you're serving, or you're reporting on, the system itself is kind of set up for failure because it's just near impossible to do a good job, unless it's like there's a fire down the street. That's easy to do, but it's not easy to do issue-oriented journalism at all anymore, no matter where you work. But like that's why the issue-oriented stuff for local news ends up recycling national issues. And the reporters don't really know what they're talking about. Even if they wanted to, they're not given the time to. So
yeah, I would agree with that.
I love here's the other problem: monetization. Even if Allison and Joanna created a network of independent journalists, would they become demonetized by payment processors? Well, that's another problem. I mean, it's very hard to do journalism on the main, like if you were to talk about mainstream news from the alternative perspective, that would be YouTube, right? YouTube's the main kind of the mainstream corporate outlet for alternative media, and they've got all kinds of rules. And then if you move on to the alternative sites like Rumble, we're live on Rumble, which is great. You're sort of relying on people giving you the equivalent of a super chat, tipping you, because Rumble doesn't have the ad revenue at this point that YouTube does to pay on views. So ROKFIN's nice because people pay subscriptions. Locals, alsamaro.locals.com, where you can go and become part of my editorial board. That's another great way, because you pay $5 a month, and then you can ask questions ahead of time, which I do actually have. I think I do have some questions for you, Joanna, that people submitted.
Oh, okay.
That's a way to support it, but I do think you bring up a good point. It's not necessarily like you just break away from the corporate world and then things are just all of a sudden rosy and unicorn on the alternative platforms. It's difficult to make a living, and there's all kinds of rules, like you were saying, on the main outlets like YouTube, that make it difficult to do real journalism if you really wanted to push back on stuff. I don't know, Joanna, if you have any thoughts on that, but
no, I mean, I agree. Obviously, I admire what you're doing, but there's a reason why I'm not doing it. Like, it sounds like a lot of pressure, especially when you're your own boss and you're extremely reliant on other people sort of subscribing to your content. I'd much rather just work for you, Allison. So if you ever get to that point, just hire me.
Okay. All right, everybody, let's get Joanna's fun going. Okay, so this is on Locals. Fortunately, the internet is forever. Will you show this video at your daughter's high school graduation party? I might, but I got to tell you, I've got a lot of embarrassing videos of my daughter already, and a lot of very embarrassing stories. One of which is when it was a little warmer, because it's -7 degrees out right now, but over the summer, we're working on potty training, and she had an accident outside. I stripped her and squirted her off with a hose, and then ran her clothes inside and grabbed her brother and came out, and she was gone. And I'm looking all over the property for her. I can't find her. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she probably went into the road. And so I ran up to the road, which is, we live in the middle of nowhere. So there's 2 other houses, not even, close to us. So it's not like a busy road, but it's still, it's concerning. And I run out to the road and I see my neighbor who just moved here. I had not even met her yet. She just moved here, walking a naked 2-year-old down the road, the kid's barefoot, has no clothes on. And I see this woman holding her hand, and she's like, "Is this yours?"
Oh my
and I
God.
said, "Yes, I'm so sorry." And she said, "Well, she looked rather well cared for, so I figured she had a home somewhere around here, but I wasn't sure exactly where." So we have plenty of stories. I don't know if I'll have to play the orca. Where did you get the Santa suit? Would love the wife to have one. I got it off Amazon somewhere. As a fairly recent follower, it's great to see your creative side. Made me laugh and smile. Thanks. Thank you. It makes no sense, but I get the mouth reminds me of Katie Couric. Apparently that your mouth looks like Katie Couric's mouth.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but thanks.
Hope you had as much fun making the video as it was to watch. I was going to guess Richard Simmons, but to be reserved,
flattering.
Richard Simmons on Xanax.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Cheers, we need some fun and lightness. Thank you. Happy Christmas. And okay, here's the question. What's your favorite raw fish? And would you share it with Allison?
Oh, of course I'd share it with you, Allison. I miss you so much. I don't know. I do like sushi though. So I guess I'd probably pick tuna. If I was going to pick sushi, it would definitely be something tuna, probably spicy tuna. Kind of boring. I'm not super adventurous when it comes to eating raw fish, nor are orcas for that matter. They stick to salmon.
Was Cairo owned by Mormons?
No, not that I know of. Cairo was owned by Cox Media, but so they're owned now by a company called Apollo. But Cox Media is still the prime. It's a little confusing, but they're still the primary entity that's operating the day-to-day at Cairo 7. Yeah, my husband actually, we didn't move to Denver and my husband's still in news. He's a photographer, but we didn't move to Denver till this past May. So he worked at Cairo for 22 years as a photographer. It's a little bit different in that vein of what he's doing. But and now he's working for a station here in Denver.
Any final thoughts before we go? I appreciate everyone taking the time. I'm having some child challenges right now, so I figure probably before it gets it's still quiet and you can hear us, we should probably go. And Joanne's got to get back to work.
Yes, I am at work. But You know what? That video is one of my best memories of Seattle. I lived in Seattle for like 8 years. Well, you're one of my best memories of Seattle. But yeah, I'm so grateful for our friendship after all this time. But that was so much fun. And you are obviously a serious journalist, but you are one of the most fun people I've ever met. So I'm so glad we did that. And it was so fun to see Chaka in there, who has since passed on. And it's crazy to think this was before we had kids and families, and like so much has changed. So for me, that is a memory I will always cherish. And like, I think we agreed and talked about at the time that it ended up being even funnier with the blur on there. But how disappointing was that? All that work and my face was blurred. So when you told me you wanted to do a reveal, I was all in. Remember how confused that Santa was? But he like totally went with it. We waited in line at the actual mall, cut off all the children waiting to sit on Santa's lap to lip sync Mariah Carey and dance around like a whale. Man.
I know. I was just thinking we should have talked about that earlier in the stream, but yeah, putting together this music video was hilarious. We had to do that dance and everything in front of people in line at the mall.
Look at my planking. I mean, I deserve some, and holding hands on the ferry, watching a romantic sunset. I mean, like there was no shame at all.
It's true.
This video.
It's so funny because you watch it and you might not. Oh yeah, there's Chaka.
Yeah, she was in there a bunch.
Chaka, we miss you. Yeah, you forget, like here, I mean, we're at the market in Seattle,
like
the public market.
At Christmas time.
We had to do this for Santa.
And we monopolized so much of that Santa's time.
I know. But
that was pre-COVID, so there were like actual lines.
Yep. He was a good sport though. He played along.
Totally was.
Yeah.
And we picked up that little kid on the ferry who wanted to dance with us. Remember, she didn't know what King 5 was, but she knew what YouTube was. And when she found out it was going to be on YouTube, she's like, I made it.
That's so right. Yeah. I guess, I don't know. I mean, I think I've always been this way, that I really didn't care what people thought, but, you know, we definitely, you have to think about the fact that, it's easy to watch us and be like, oh, you know, no, but you don't, because you don't see all the people staring at us saying, what the heck? But then also it is Seattle, Joanna. So I think people are used to this kind of thing. It would be a little different maybe in like Montgomery, Alabama or something.
Yeah. I mean, this video may not have happened in that case, but you know, it was a blast, Allison. It's one of my favorite memories.
I agree. Yeah, it was one of my favorites too. All right. I love you, Joanna. Bye, everybody. We love you too. Merry Christmas. Thanks everyone for participating, watching, wherever you are. Don't forget to go to AllisonWinePromo.com, 22coffee.com/Allison, AllisonMorrow.locals.com. Merry Christmas. Hopefully Joanna will come back and talk TV news with us sometime. Jack is telling us to wrap.
Will do.
All right.